Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Cynthia Tomain with Interactive Brokers, and thank you for joining me for today's webinar, where we'll be discussing the Trader Workstation order types. Our focus today is going to be on the Mosaic order entry screen. So with that, I'm going to close down my slides here today. Let's close down those slides, and we'll go ahead and get underway. Okay, well, to save some time here today, I'm going to bring up the TWS interface, and notice that I have opened it up to the Mosaic. So I do want to point that out here for you. Now, this Mosaic workspace, and by the way, there are two different versions of two different interfaces. The Mosaic is a more basic platform that's been designed for intuitive, out-of-the-box usability, and that includes the embedded order entry panel that we see in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. This window offers you efficient pull-down selections that allow you to define and transmit the trades you create. Now, I do want to point out it is linked via the grouping icon. Notice that grouping icon that's included in each of these windows. Now, that grouping icon means that when you select the particular ticker symbol, you'll see that all of the windows in the Mosaic are going to refresh with that ticker symbol in focus. Okay. Also, once you do select that ticker, you'll notice that the order entry window then becomes loaded with your ticker selection and is ready for you to submit a trade. Now, before we do get into actually trading, a couple of pieces of information that I do want to point out for you, and for that, I'm going to take you out to the Interactive Broker website, because underneath here, I do want notice the different menu items that are included at the top, and I'm going to go into the technology section, and notice here there is an order types and algos page. Now here we do have, first of all, notice there are over 60 different order types and algorithms that are available in TWS. Now, as a quick point of reference, we're not going to be able to cover all of those order types today, but I did want you to see where you'll be able to make your selections or find out additional information about any of the order types that are available. Now, notice when I do get to this page, you'll see that it is organized by product and then also by trading goal. So if it's equities that you're trading, notice here that the different order types will appear down below. If you're looking for trading Forex, you'll see that these order types will then adjust, and just those order types you can utilize on your FX trades will be available. Same thing with bonds, or if you're looking at mutual funds, or even let's go into futures or options. So I did want to show you there's a multitude of information available on our website. Now, also notice that underneath there that these order types are defined by different trading goal or trading category. So if you're looking for algorithms, for example, notice that by simply clicking algorithmic trading, you'll find just those order types that will allow you to enter those algos. If you're looking for price improvement or speed of execution, notice that each of these, it will redirect each time that I do make that selection. Now I'm going to jump back to all, because I did want you to see that each of these items here, when you do hover over any of the boxes, and for example, I'm going to go into a bracket order. It's one of our more popular order types, and notice that when I do simply click on Learn More, notice what will happen here is you'll see a page that's devoted to that particular order type. Now, notice over on the right-hand side, it will show you the different products it's available for. And with the bracket, I believe it's available for all products that we do have on our platform. You'll also find availability, whether it's for U.S. or non-U.S. products, and also our routing designation. Now, I do want to point out SMART, and you'll see reference to SMART throughout today's session. Now, SMART is referring to IB's smart routing technology. When you do route your trades to SMART, those trades will be exposed to any of the exchanges where that trade could possibly fill. Also, with our smart routing technology, you'll find that TWS does not relinquish that trade once it's been sent. So if market prices or conditions do change, IB's smart routing technology will route or reroute all or parts of that trade to get you the fastest or the best price, fastest fill, I should say, at the best all-in price. Any additional attributes will also be available here. Now I'm quickly going to just grab my scroll bar and take you down this page because I did want you to see that you'll find examples as well as step-by-step information, whether you're working in Mosaic, and notice here we have the Mosaic information, but as I scroll down, you'll also see that those same order types are available in the classic version of TWS, although they may be laid out differently. Now also notice here as I scroll up to the top of the page, there's access to the user guide. Now this will actually take you out to the user guide for those step-by-step instructions. So please do keep that in mind directly from our website. Okay, so with that, let's jump right back into TWS and the Mosaic. Now notice here, and I'm going to pull up a particular equity for right now, and you'll see that that has been automatically entered or populated in the order entry window. Notice here there's several different buttons that are available as well. Now a quick point, first of all, shortable, you'll see here, notice underneath that there are some quick access links that are included here. For example, if you are going to short, notice here by simply hovering over shortable, you'll see an extra tooltip will open up to let you know if there are shares available for shorting. It will not only show you those, notice I happen to have a large cap stock here that is available, but you'll see here that when I click, it will let you know the number of shares that are available for shorting. By the way, there's also access to the fee rate and the rebate rate as well. And you can even find additional information included in the links that are provided in each of these tooltips. Now also, I do want to mention, let's jump off of this, the consolidated button. Now, this consolidated button has been added to the Mosaic or to TWS and is displayed only when a U.S. equity product is selected. When you Now, this is available, and it's because of our market data subscriptions. Now, we have various subscriptions for U.S. products. And there are several different networks, whether you're trading NASDAQ, NYSE, or ARCA Group. Now, these are available and can be subscribed to through your account management interface. That's also available for TWS users. Now, if you do not subscribe to all of the various networks to get the national best bid or offer, notice this consolidated button is available for you when an eligible product does show up, and that's a U.S. equity. So here, that consolidated button, if you do not have real-time prices for all networks, simply choosing that consolidated button, notice how it will bring you a one-time snapshot quote of the best bid or ask that's available on the platform. You'll see I do have some additional market data subscriptions, so mine is updating in real time. But I did want to point that out for those of you who will be trading U.S. equity products only. Okay. Now, this is available in both Classic, TWS, as well as the Mosaic interface. So here are just some of the buttons that are available. Now, you'll also see that notice when you are in any of your watch lists that each of the different various ticker symbols will show you the last price at which that contract traded, as well as the change in price since previous business day and the percentage change that represents. So notice here we're looking at CDS that's down almost 1% in today's markets. But for the current bid and offer prices, now notice how you can view those within our expanded quote detail screen, but they also do appear when you're or when you have highlighted that particular ticker symbol. Notice how the best uh, bid and offer prices are now displayed within this window. Now, underneath that, you'll also see we do have a quantity, or I'm sorry, a price wand. And notice here, if you do want to, say, for example, select this at the midpoint of the bid and ask, notice here, with a single click, it actually puts that midpoint directly within your window. We'll come back later and talk more about the relative buttons that are available here. Now, I also do want to mention an adaptive algo. An adaptive algo is one of our latest order types that we've added into TWS. Now, this will allow you to to utilize that adaptive algo that will give you access or actually what it does is combine TWS's smart routing capabilities along with your defined priority settings in an effort to achieve the fastest fill at the best all-in price. We'll be talking more about that as we go through today's session as well. Now, also notice there is a question mark, and throughout TWS, where you find these question marks, what you'll see is that we include what we call cheat sheets. These little cheat sheets, by simply clicking that question mark icon, will open up to give you some additional information about what it is that you're looking for. So notice here with that adaptive algo, it will display the algo, also the different callouts and what's available, as well as any additional criteria for that order type. Now here you'll find we include links at the bottom of the page where you can find out more about the IB Adaptive Algo or even jump directly into the user guide right from here. So do want to point that out, and these can be helpful for that quick one-click access to some additional information. Now, also notice over to the far right-hand side of the screen, there are additional order entry tools that are available throughout Trader Workstation. And you can access any of these, for example, option chains or a book trader, market depth, strategy builder, even fundamentals. And everything that you see from here are all involved or all do give you access to order entry as well. Okay, so we've been through that top line. Let's also take a look now at the order row. Now, once you've added that ticker symbol, you'll see that there are several buttons that will automatically populate when you do add that item into your order entry window. Now, the first step you'll need to do is select either buy, the buy or the sell button. Now notice when I've got buy, you'll see that that's highlighted, but also notice the background shading. That background shading lets you see, for example, dark blue is indicating that you're creating a buy order or going to be going long or increasing an existing position. If you click on the sell button, you'll see the background changes to a dark red, which indicates that you're going to sell or sell this particular symbol, ticker symbol, decrease a position, or actually even close a position out. Now, we'll be back and notice here, you can toggle between the buy or the sell buttons, but that background is important. Then notice that there's also several different fields that do come pre-populated. The quantity field, and you'll see the quantity, is going to default to the default to the minimum quantity, or I'm sorry, not the minimum, but the default amount. Notice here for equities and ETFs, it's 100 shares. If I did have an option ticker, an option or a future, it would default to a single contract each. Now, if you are trading currencies, you'll find, and I'm going to simply, let's go over into my ticker symbols. into my watch list here, I'm going to pull up the Euro USD, and notice here the quantity now, it has changed to an approximate 25,000 US dollar equivalent. So different amounts based on the different products that you are going to trade. Now notice I will pull up a futures contract here. We'll pull up the oil contract, and you'll see the quantity here is set to a single contract. But notice that for all of the different products available, you can simply click within that field and choose any or choose multipliers here. So notice that I can put 5, for example, 5 future contracts. So did want to show you that, but also do be aware that this is going to, whether you click within that field or simply type. Notice here I'm going to click out of here and we'll simply type in a single contract. So this is the quantity of your trade. Now, the different order types that are available, notice I'm going to click my drop-down arrow. And within the Mosaic interface, what you will find is that only basic order types are available. Notice here we have a limit order, a market order, a stop. There's also a trailing stop, and even algos are available for that product. But notice as well, there is an arrowhead that appears at the bottom. What this drop-down window is showing you are all of the order types that can be transmitted through this order entry screen. Now, when I do expand that menu, you'll see highlighted here are certain items that I do not have activated for this particular product. Now, not activated does not mean they're not available. It just means that you haven't used them in the previous 2 weeks of trading. TWS will then automatically deactivate those order types while they won't appear. And let me click out of here. Well, let's actually change this. I'm going to go back to, say, for example, I'm going to go to Microsoft for a moment. And notice when I do change to Microsoft, you'll see other order types here, but also notice additional order types do display. Now, if you're not seeing what you expected to see, notice here, for example, a limit on close. While it is showing you a yellow background and grayed out information, it's still available for you. And when you do make that selection, it will then populate, but then notice it becomes one of your active choices. So do keep that in mind as you are creating trades. If you're not seeing the trades you expect or the order types you expect, simply use that arrowhead to expand your selection. Now, the next field here, and by the way, I'm going to go back to a limit order type. And let's put this, I'll leave the quantity here at 1,000. Now, I am going to start out with the buy order, and I do want you to see that when you do select the buy, notice here that the best ask or the current ask price is what's automatically populated within that limit price field. Now notice here if I click the sell order, you'll see that in this case here I can go in and simply click within that field and choose from the ask price or any of these additional values here, or click on the bid price. Now notice here I may want to click above that price, so any of these values are available. Now I'm going to go back. I know I'm clicking around here, so let's go in, and in this case here what I will do is simply select the midpoint of the bid and ask price, and you'll see that will populate as the limit price for my order. Now, also on here, I do want to start out with the time and force. Now, same thing as we saw with the order types, the time and force is also going to show you what is available. Notice here you have a day order, which means if it doesn't fill by the end of the current trading session, it will expire and be removed from your screen. There's also a good till cancel order type that will remain in effect until it fills, until you cancel it, or until there may be a corporate action that affects the underlying security that you're looking for. Now notice here there's also a time and force at the opening, which would set this order up to trigger at the opening for tomorrow's trading day. Additional items such as fill outside of RTH are also available on this drop-down, What is RTH? Regular trading hours. So if you do want this available in the pre-market, in the pre-open, or in the aftermarket close in those hours there, you can simply make that selection by putting a check mark in front of the box. Now, when you do that, notice how an additional icon will display in your time and force. And when you hover over that icon, you'll see a tooltip that lets you know that this order could fill outside of regular trading hours. I'm going to go back and we'll simply leave this. Let me deselect that fill outside of orders. So now I've selected a price. We do have that limit price in and a quantity of 1,000 shares. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this trade. Now, as soon as I do submit, you'll see an order confirmation window opens up automatically. Now, that is set by default for all of you the first time you take a look at your orders. Now, notice here it also shows you a quote line for the ticker symbol that you're about to trade. It will also display the bid and the ask prices as well as the last price, and then also notice here the tick dots that are included. You'll see those tick dots included in any of your watch list or quote monitor screens, and they're letting you know what that previous trade, whether it fills on an uptick with a green dot or a downtick with the red dot. So these tick dots will let you or give you that directional movement. Then you'll also notice that your order has been recapped for you. First of all, notice how the text color changes to blue, matches the background, so that you know at a glance that you're buying or going long an additional 1,000 shares. All of the other order attributes that you've input here will be listed, as well as the total amount of your trade. So notice here at trading at 81 or 85.61, notice here how 1,000 shares, it's going to show you what the amount of that trade would be, as well as the estimated commission should that trade completely fill. Now, over on the right-hand side, you'll also see your margin impact. Notice their current margin settings. For example, your current settings are going to be listed here. And based on the parameters of this trade, notice what the change will be as well. So, for example, your initial margin requirement is set at for 1,000 shares of Microsoft. This is the amount of reserve that must be maintained within your account. Notice here how it's going to show you your current position. The change, and then what that will equate to as well. Now, if all of this is acceptable, you can choose to transmit from here. Now, I do want to point out in the lower left-hand corner, once you are accustomed to trading in TWS, you can choose not to display this message again. But for the purposes of today's session, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on so that we can verify any of the trades that we have made. Now, you'll also see in your margin impact, once that trade fills, notice here how it will approximate or project the information after that trade does fill. Now, at this point, notice here you can choose to cancel that trade or simply transmit the trade from here. Now, once I transmit the trade, I do have, well, first of all, notice what I'm going to put at the very bottom of this screen. You'll see that that order that has been transmitted has now populated in your activity monitoring screen. Here's that trade, Microsoft. We put it in as a buy. My order type's the limit, and here is the price that I set for that particular trade. Quantity of the trade is going to show you the outstanding quantity, and as it does fill, you'll see the numerator will actually populate here. Now, also notice that you can choose to send a cancellation request for this trade prior to it filling. Now, I did skip over an item here and did want to point out, notice that, first of all, there is that colored icon that's included, and hovering over that icon, it is going to show you that this trade is active. This is your order status color. Now, notice simply hovering over that icon how it's going to display a tooltip and show you where that trade is currently working. If the trade is active, notice here it's active and it is showing us that particular price. Now, at any time, you can come in, anytime up until that trade fills, notice you can come in and make modifications. So I'm going to click on the price and I'm going to take this a few more pennies away from the market. Notice what happens when I do that is it automatically will, or TWS, will turn that order management row to brown. That's to let you know that you've made a modification to this particular trade. And if you hover over the field that you modified, notice how it's showing you the current price is still that 85.61 that I had originally entered. It's not until I hit the update here that my new price will be accepted. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to simply choose update, and now notice how that new price is displayed. Now, by the way, with the order status colors, there's quite a few of those order status colors that are available. So I'm going to take you up to the Help drop-down menu, go into Guides and Documentation, and here you can find the Online User Guide. Now, notice there is a table of contents that automatically displays, and you can expand to notice here the order types. We can go into different order types and actually even drill down into the basic order types, and notice here how they'll all be displayed on this particular page. There's also an alphabetical index where you can locate items within the user guide by keyword. But I'm also going to point out the search field, because here is where you can enter items such as, let me put in here, I'm going to add, let me see, not order types, I'm going to add order status colors. And once I've added that, notice that by clicking the search field, you'll see the results will be displayed in order of relevance. And notice right at the top of the page, you'll see the order status colors. Click through and notice the different order status colors that you may encounter when transmitting any of your trades. Now here you'll be able to see an expanded description of each of those order types, with bright green showing you your order has been accepted and is working at the destination. There are other order status colors that are also displayed. For example, this dark blue means that your order has been accepted by the system, but it has not yet been elected. That order status color will remain dark blue until all of your election criteria are met and that order then is working. Now notice as I scroll down on this screen, there is that cancellation button that's included in the order entry window, and once you do send that cancellation request, you will see different order status colors. It is this bright red order status color that does let you know that you are out of that trade. So when you do see the order status colors in TWS, I'm going to simply minimize that. Simply hover over this particular order status. Now, at any time, you can come in and choose, anytime up until the trade actually fills, you could come in and choose or to send a cancellation for that particular trade. Okay, so we've walked through the basics here. Now, what I am going to do is send a cancellation request for that at this point. Now, also on here, let's go in and notice that I'm just going to change the ticker symbol, which will actually refresh the order entry window so that I can create a buy or a sell. And notice here, I'm going to put this, say, for example, 600 shares. Now, before I do, hold on a minute. Before I do move over to that, what I am going to do is notice here, I'm going to navigate away, because one of the other items I haven't shown you is where you do hold a position in the underlying. Notice how that's also going to be displayed in your order entry window. So here you can see if you wanted to place an order for Facebook that you already hold 500 shares in your account. So I did want to show you that. Now let's jump back over to CDS and notice here I do not have a position in that particular underlying. So we're going to go with CDS. Now notice here I'm going to, by the way, notice if I wanted to send a market order, simply changing that order type to market, my price is set at the market and I could submit this trade and it will fill rather quickly. Okay, but before we go in, that's another one of those basic order types. But notice, and I mentioned this early on, I'm going to create this order for CDS. I do not hold a position. So let's go in and I'm going to put this in for, say, 600 shares. Now, instead of at the market, I am going to put this back to a limit order price because some of our more advanced order types will be available off a limit, a basic limit order. Now, once again, I'm going to move into the order or the price panel, and notice there are several relative price buttons that are available. For right now, what I am going to do is pull this away from the current market. So we're going to go a few pennies below. Now I'm going to make this a good till cancel order, and then notice there is an advanced button. Now this advanced button here will allow me to add additional attributes. So by simply clicking that button, you'll see an additional screen opens up. Now notice here, by the way, I do want to mention here, our destination is set at SMART, which, as I mentioned before, it gives you access to IB's smart routing technology. Now, if you do have a preference, notice that by clicking on that drop-down box, there are several exchanges where your trade could possibly fill. So if you do want to direct route your trade to any of these exchanges, notice here, we could simply put that to Island, and then that becomes the destination for your particular trade. But if you do not have a reason, now what reasons could you have for directing it to Island? Now that is from our order types page. Now notice what I will do is I'm going to take us back into, let me bring up, and what I'm going to do here is take you to the home page, and let me see, someone had asked, how do you get back to that order types or the order, excuse me a moment. Sorry about that. Did not want to cough in your ear. Okay, how do you get to the web page? Anupam has asked. Well, the website. Once you get to the Interactive Brokers web page, it's underneath the technology menu. Notice going into the order types and algos here. So here you can go in and find any of those additional order types. Now, based on, and notice here, if we do go into, say, for example, in options, and I'm just going to pull up the options, you'll see the various order types that are available. But some of these may only be available if you choose to direct route to an exchange of your choice. If you do not have a particular reason, excuse me, if you don't have a particular reason, then IB does recommend that you utilize our smart routing technology. Okay, so I'm going to take this back to SMART. Now, before I do, there's something interesting here, and it's a T+1. Well, for option traders. Now, option traders, if you do get assigned an option contract and do not want to relinquish or have your position called away from your account, notice here there is a T+1 routing designation that will allow you to purchase those replacement shares and tag those so when your option assignment does go to settle, those shares will be in your account and not affect your initial or the position that you do hold. More information is available in our user guide, and also I do want to mention you'll have to go into account management and select T+1 as trading permissions in order to activate it for your account. Um, so I did want to also mention here, notice algorithms are available. Whether you go or choose the order types as algorithms, notice here that by going into these algorithms, you'll be able to see the various algos that are available for the contract that you do, for the product that you have in your order entry panel. I do want to mention we have different algos for options as well as equities here. And you can find out, notice here, the different algos that are available. Now, for example, here's one. I'm just going to pull it up on percentage of volume. And by the way, make sure you check our order types matrix for the all of the different algos that we do have. Now, notice here that adaptive algo will attempt to achieve the fastest fill at the best all-in price. There's also an arrival, which will attempt to achieve the bid-ask midpoint at the time that the order was transmitted. All of the rest of these are also described, and notice here, I'm going to click on percentage of volume because what we'll display in this advanced order entry panel are the different attributes that you'll need to identify for this particular algo. So keep that in mind. Notice here, by selecting advanced, going into your destination and choosing algos, you have access to all of IB's algos directly from the Mosaic interface. Okay, a quick look, but let's go back, and I'm going to try and keep this back to basics. So we're going to go with our routing destination as smart, and then notice that under, well, first of all here, if you do want to add an iceberg order, which will actually, this is meant for large quantity orders of thinly traded stocks, for example, what you can do is choose to select, and notice here I've got 600 shares. I could choose to show only a smaller quantity to the market, or just the tip of the iceberg, by making that selection within this window. By the way, notice here there's also another selection that will allow you to hide your order from the market as well. But in this case here, what I'm going to do, notice we can make that attribute, or I'm going to go back and we'll simply leave that. Well, right now it's showing because I did click here the iceberg, but it is the entire quantity. Any other attributes that are available, such as all or none, simply clicking on that box will activate that additional order attribute directly from here. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and unselect that. Now, there's also a discretionary amount. Now, that's for a relative order type where you can indicate an amount above or say that will be added to or subtracted from your order type to increase the range at which this order may possibly fill. But what I did come out here for was to show you how you can attach a bracket order. We mentioned that early on with the order attributes. Now, a bracket order will bracket your trade, your initial trade, and notice I have no position. So at the time that I place this order, I can choose to bracket that trade with my two exit trades, a profit-taking limit order as well as a protective stop. Now notice that TWS automatically will populate these windows again with some default amounts. So you'll see that profit-taking limit order is set at $1 above my current limit price, and the protective stop is set at $1 below. Now also notice here that the good till cancel, it pulls down all of those attributes from your initial trade as well. So in this case, now notice what I could choose is rather than an absolute or this amount here, notice how I could also simply make a selection within this window to increase. So I may take this. I'm just going to, well, let's make sure I put it in correctly, at 492. Now, I may want to bring or tighten up that stop a little bit further. So while I could make my selection from the incremental values, notice here, well, I didn't want to put 94. What I will do is put this in at 72. 42. So we'll put this at 50 cents below where my parent price is going to trigger. So now here I've made that order. So what I will do is actually, first of all, I could submit the trade from here. But what I'll also do is check margin. Now notice when I go to check margin, it opens up the order preview window as well with the order description included at the top. Now, also notice my profit-taking limit order as well as that protective stop are also listed here, and you'll see the buy of 600 shares and then these two opposite side orders. Now, also notice here the OCA, or one cancels all, group identifier is the same for each of these trades. So what that means is that once your initial trade fills, these two other orders will activate in the system. And as one of these, if the market moves in your direction, your profit-taking limit order is already in place. Or if the market moves away from your position, notice here, so is that protective stop. When one of these orders fills, the system, or TWS, will automatically cancel the other trade. Now also notice here that I do have some messages. Now this message is set and showing me my order size of 600 shares exceeds the size limit of 500. Can I only trade 500 shares? Absolutely not. What this is showing you, and this is a precautionary measure that's been set up at 5 times the default amount. Remember, for equities and ETFs, it was 100 shares. So 5 times gives you that size limitation. Now, this is meant to alert you to a possible fat-fingered error. Notice that if you added an extra zero or somehow had or were looking to trade more than what that default is, this is just meant to alert you to, you may want to double check that order before you do transmit. Now notice you do have the ability to override and transmit what if after reviewing this, if this is what you do want or how you want to place that trade. Now also notice you can go in and update that precautionary measure, change the limit to, say, if you typically trade 1,000 shares at a time, you may want to up that order size so you can change that limit from here. But also notice that what I could do is override and transmit this particular trade. Well, now I do have to go through each of these, that order preview. I have to override and transmit each of these. And now notice what shows up in my order entry window. You'll see my initial order is included here as a buy, and here's the order price, and then each of those opposite side orders are also going to be listed here as well. Now, at this point, we'll notice that trade is actually working. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring this as a buy. I'm going to adjust that order and see if we can get a fill. Notice that as soon as I updated that, you'll be able to see that I have received a fill. Now notice my position of 600 shares is included here. It will also be included on your portfolio tab. Well, let's go into the portfolio tab and notice my 600 shares of CVS has been added here as well. But also take a look at these two opposite side orders. You'll see that profit-taking limit order as well as the protective stop, and notice the different order status colors. Well, here I did send a cancellation request for Microsoft, so notice that red order status and hovering over that lets you know whether it was canceled by the system or by the user. And it was me that just sent that cancellation request. But also notice these other two order status colors. My profit-taking limit order is currently working at the NYSE. You'll also see that protective stop is being held and monitored until that stop election price is reached. At that point, it's transmitted to the exchange as a market order. Well, now these two will remain active. Now, first of all, once that order has filled, notice there's also a trades tab here. That trades tab will let you see the time of the trade, the instrument that you were trading, action as a buy or a sell, the quantity, and the price that was paid. But then take a look at the exchange. The exchange is BEX plus one. Well, what that is, it's showing you the beauty of our smart routing technology. I'm going to move over to the icon at the beginning of this line, and notice here that by clicking that plus sign, I can expand to see that you'll notice here that my initial trade was filled at BEX, and then within milliseconds, notice here that I was filled at 100 shares at BEX, but notice the remaining 500 also filled at the NYSE. So here is how you can see that smart routing technology at work. If you want to see each individual tax lot, you can, or notice how you can left click on that icon and it will collapse it to that single line item. Now, also on here, I do want to mention the summary tab. The summary tab, for those of you who are active traders and may want to be flat at the end of the day, the summary tab is going to net your buys and your sells and show you if you do have that net position that's available. So did want to point that out. Now I'm going to go back over to the orders tab here because notice one time I'm going to go in and let's make this my profit taking limit order. I'm going to go ahead and select market. Now notice here that yellow update button. I've modified the order, so I will have to go in and update. And as soon as that has been filled, you'll see I no longer hold a position in the underlying. And then notice as well that in my orders tab, notice here that red icon indicates that this was canceled by the system. That's that OCA group that's working. So what we just went through was a bracket trade from start to finish. Now, notice here, you'll be able to see those items. By the way, I also want to show you, notice that in this window, you can view any live orders, and you'll see here, if you do have any working orders or orders that have yet to be filled, you can actually even isolate this window to show you just your working orders, to show you any of the canceled orders, or to show you any of your completed orders. So this activity monitor can play quite a role in understanding your trades. Okay, all right, we just went through the basics here. So before we move on into some more complex order types, let's go in and I'll take a look at some of those questions. Okay, how do you adjust your order for dividend reinvestment? Okay, Tasmudin, if you do want to reinvest that dividend, that is something that you'll need to do in account management. Now you can access account management directly from TWS. Notice here you can go into your account management home. By the way, I happen to be in my paper account today, so I'm not going to be able to jump into account management and view this information there. But what you can do is take a look at dividend reinvestment. It's one of those selections in your manage account area where you could make that dividend reinvestment and simply tell TWS. And by the way, also from our website, do want to mention that you can enter into the search field dividend reinvestment. Let me actually pull up. Let me go back and I'm going to pull up our website and notice here that search field. By simply adding that into the search window, you can find quite a bit of information on that dividend reinvestment plan. So let me see, Tazimudin, here is where you can find some additional information. So please check that out. But for now, let's go ahead and minimize this. Okay, let me see. Next question. Your order entry window looks a little different. The shortable is in a different location, and I don't have the adaptive algo window to the right of the bid and ask. Well, Kevin, what that tells me is that you may be running a prior version of TWS. Now notice I'm going to go into the Help menu here, and where you see About Trader Workstation, notice this is going to pop up and show you what build of TWS that you're currently running. Now, let me go back to our website. I'm going to bring the web page up. Let me see. Let's turn that off. Let me bring the web page, and we won't go to the. Let me get back into. Okay, I'm going to go back to this page here. Let's go to the home button. But in this case here, notice that if you do go to I'm going to go to the login window. There's several different versions of TWS that are available. Beta shows up here, and that's going to give you a view of any new updates or enhancements that may soon be rolled out. Do be aware that beta changes on a regular basis. So what you see in beta, while it is a live trading application, it could change rather frequently. But Kevin, in your case, what I'm assuming here is that you're running the static version of TWS. Now, this is a time-tested version, and it is not updated nearly as often as TWS latest. So if you're looking for this information, my suggestion is to come out and download and run TWS latest. You can simply click on that button, and notice here, it will take you to a download page where you can upgrade your version of TWS. And Kevin, if you're not seeing, you'll see that there are many other adjustments that have been made over the last year or so since static TWS was updated. So if you do see other differences here, I believe that's what or that's the explanation why you're not seeing what it is that I'm showing you here. Okay. Let me see. How come you don't see Mosaic button or the field adaptive? Oliver was asking. Same information, Oliver. I believe you were probably working in a prior version of TWS. So just remember, check About Trader Workstation, and if you do not see 968, you're not in TWS latest. So simply go out to the login button and download that updated information. Can I do a buy right on this platform? Oh, absolutely, Glenn. Notice here, now I brought up CBS before. If you want to buy, let's click buy. Notice here the default quantity. I might, it does default to 100 shares. And if you want to buy right now, instead of creating a limit order, simply change this to market and submit. Notice this is going to give you that 100 shares. We'll go ahead and transmit, and I've just been filled. Notice here I've just been filled on those 100 shares. So yes, you can do a buy. You could even do a sell. Now, once you have created now let me see, which did I just, oh, it was CBS. Let me see. Well, I don't have a new position here. So let's go into Facebook, for example. Notice how I do have a 500 share position, but if I went to click on sell, it automatically populates with 100 shares. Now, while I could click within that field and show, and notice here how I could choose the position, there's another way that you can do this as well with a simple right click on that ticker symbol. In any of your watch lists, if you right click, notice you get intuitive information. You could choose a buy, sell, or close. Now keep in mind, buy and sell are going to go with the default order row parameters here, but if you do choose to close, notice how TWS automatically draws your attention and pulls that same position down into the order entry field. Now I'm going to change this again. We'll go back to 200 shares because there's even another way you can do this as well. Once you, if you do want to, well, let's go, I'm going to take this, let me see here to say Bank of America. I'm simply going to navigate away from this field and notice that when I do have a position, if I click buy or sell, so let's go ahead and click sell and then simply clicking on the position, notice how that's added into your quantity field. So did want to show you there's a few ways around it, but just keep in mind that this order row will fill with the default parameters unless you make those changes. Okay, let me see. Can demonstrate how to build a hotkey, how to sell half the position. Oh, well, the hotkeys, let me notice here, the hotkeys are a little bit off target, but what I will do is show you where you can actually make those, Bav. Going into your settings actually opens up, let me see, I'm going to bring in here, I'm going to open up our settings field. Oh, and I see I've got it opened up on my second monitor. And that actually takes us into the global configuration screen where you can go in and find those hotkeys. Now, here are their hotkeys that are already predefined. And notice the very first thing that you'll need to do is select your different action. Notice here you can create an action. Let me see, we'll change the order, increase or decrease the price or size. So here, so make those selections. Right now what I am going to do is don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but notice when I do go in to change the, you'll first have to select an action, then create a shortcut. It opens up a hotkey where you can then, and what I'm going to do, you can't see my keystrokes, but when I click the record button, it's going to create that hotkey for me, Control M. Now, notice there are some additional fields that can be activated from here, and even it gives you the ability to transmit that order or that modified order instantaneously. So do check this out within our global configurations screen about creating those hotkeys. Okay, so quick look at hotkeys here. But let's go on. What I do want to do is get back into that questions panel and see if there's any more questions that I can handle for you here today. Let me find my questions. Okay, here it is. It came back to a different spot within my second window. All right, so let's get back. Now I found those questions. Let's see some more questions. All right, a couple of rookie questions. Okay, Bastian. Let's see. In respect to pattern day trading rule, when your account is below 25,000, you can execute 3 trades per week, but the 4th will not be possible. Okay, what I'm going to do here, pattern day trading is for those accounts that do have less than 25,000 value, you are subject to pattern day trading, which does limit you to 3 round-trip trades in a 5-day period. So want to point that out. But let's see, let me also show you, I'm going to bring up, let's go back to our window. And what I will do, or back to the website, is I'm going to take you to the products menu and notice, let me see here, underneath the margin tab, while this technically isn't margin, what it will do, let me see. Oh, we've been changing the website. So what I will do is put in PDT. Notice here, pattern day trading. And you can find out more information about pattern day trading here. So it will be only 3 round-trip trades in a 5-day period, which does mean that 4th trade will be prevented. So you won't be able to enter a trade if you've already got 3 previous round-trip trades in that same 5-day period. If you buy a stock and right after sell, Okay, more complicated here. So, Bastian, please do check that pattern day trading on our website. Notice here you can find some additional information. Let's go into pattern day trading. Where you can find, and by the way, this is in our knowledge base, so please do check that out. If you've got any questions specific to your account, please contact our client services, who does have access to your account and to your trades, and can advise you or can work with you on what those differences are for any of those trades. Okay. Let me see. And another question. Okay, I'm going to ask that everyone keep your questions rather short and quick. This isn't the forum for any of these lengthy questions, but let's go on, and I will. Let me see. After we talked about the pattern day trading, you're asking about the portfolio tab. You still use the paper account, which is what I'm in, and when you buy a stock, it's seen under the portfolio tab. How can I see the balance of the stock bought since the day the balance? Okay, well, let's go into this account here. And what I'm going to do is let's pull TWS up again, because what you will be able to see, notice that I do have a portfolio tab displayed. Now, in this portfolio, what you're going to see, first of all, notice your daily profit and loss. Now, this daily P&L is as of the closing price previous business day, and you'll see here it's going to be noted whether there were any gains or losses since the market closed previous business day. You'll also see your position is and the current market value. Notice here we do show you the average price, but as I hover over each of these column headers, I could insert additional columns here. Now, on the portfolio tab, everything will appear or a default, but you can add multiple different columns to it. When I choose to insert a column, what I am going to do is come down to my position in P&L, and you'll see here an unrealized gain and loss. So now notice I've just added a new column onto this page where you can see, now notice here, Apple might be down $99 in today's markets, but overall, since notice here, the average price that I paid for this stock has given me an unrealized gain of over $77,000. So you can view that information directly in the portfolio tab. By the way, let's go to the account tab window as well, because everything that's included in your portfolio tab will also be on your account window. Now, notice at the very top of this window, if you're working multiple different strategies, which I have been, you'll notice here that I could view these different these strategies separately, but for all other positions that are held in my account, they're all listed under that independent strategy. So I'm going to collapse some of these balances. And notice what is displayed on your account tab is also going to be the portfolio. Same information that you have here. And notice that I do have this indicated. You'll see here, I'm currently looking at just the independent section of my account. Excuse me. And all of those same items will be included here. And notice that there's also an unrealized gain or loss that's also available. Now, on this page, there's a configuration wrench that will allow you, if you're not seeing that unrealized gain or loss, notice here that you can simply put a check mark and it will display within your account window as well. Okay, so a quick look on that, Bastian. Okay, let me see. I'm going to move on to a few additional questions and then get back. We still have some time here today, and we'll take a look at some additional order types. Now, okay, Eric, okay, is asking, let me see. Okay, I see Okay, Eric's question, if you do a combo like a spread, a butterfly iron condor will not let you choose your destination other than smart. Well, let's go in, okay, because what I will do is show you. Now, remember, there are other order entry fields that are available in our order entry window. Now, this order entry window works fine for individual option trades, equities, futures, funds, uh, are all available and work from this window. But there is a different order entry field that's available for your option chains or creating spread orders. Now you can go in through the option chain and notice here when I pull up options for, and notice I've just opened up our option chain, and notice that this window is going to show you options for the selected underlying that you have in your order entry window. Now you'll see when you initially open this up that it is going to show you expiration dates for upcoming or the next 4 expirations. Those contracts that do include weekly options, notice how these are going to be highlighted in yellow. Monthly options will be in white, and if you're looking for more, you can simply use that drop-down box, and notice here the weeklies will be highlighted in yellow, and up to 5 weekly contracts will be visible at any one time on the platform. Or notice that we could go out and simply choose. Now I'm going to deselect the weeklies, and now what I'm viewing are just those options, monthly option contracts. Now notice we could even go out to your leaps for January of 2019 as well as January of 2020. So a lot of information is available here. There's more that you can add to this page, and we go through it in other webinars, but what I did want to point out is the strategy builder. Now, notice here that Bank of America, I did select when I added it into my monitor list, smart routing. Had I selected the underlying as a separate exchange, then it would, or any of my option trades would also be directed to that exchange. Now notice when I go into the strategy builder, you'll be able to see here, and I'm going to work on the calls. Notice the strike price goes down the middle, the calls are on the left and the puts are on the right. Now if I did want to create a strategy, and notice here, I'll simply, we've got the bid and the ask. Now look what happens when I hover over the bid and the ask. That background shading lets me know, as well as the tooltip, if I were to click on the bid price, that would become the sell leg of my spread. And if I were to create or click on the ask price, that would be the buy leg of my spread. So what I'm going to do here is we'll simply click on the ask price, and notice that buy leg has been added. I'm also going to click on the bid price of another contract, and notice that has been added as a sell leg. You'll also be able to see here that when TWS recognizes the strategy, for example, a bull call spread, notice here how it's going to populate within this window. And what we'll also see is that same order entry row or order row that's available in your order entry screen. Now, notice here how TWS is going to add both legs together. You can still access this information and simply notice here that if you do want to submit that trade, I'm going to go ahead and submit the order. Notice how this order confirmation, we saw it before and it's going to populate, does open up and will allow you to buy or will show you which leg you're going to purchase and which one you're going to sell. It also will show you whether there has been, or notice here, whether that it would be a debit spread or a credit spread. So you want to be very, very careful with that. Also notice that in our quote panel here, that pink tick dot is showing you the implied spread pricing that's created when TWS adds your bid and offer prices here. So a quick look at that. Now, while I'm still within this window, what I'm also going to do is come into the bid and ask prices for the pull or the puts. Now, notice here, if I do, I'm going to make this we'll add another leg, and we'll add a fourth leg here. And notice how this is going to show me a short iron condor. So when you're creating your spreads, it's through the Strategy Builder. By the way, there is a separate webinar on the Strategy Builder, so I did want to point it out. I also do want to point out here that notice from the new window button, you can get directly into the Strategy Builder as well. So a quick look at that, but do want to mention, and let me take you back to our website. I'm going to bring our web page up. Let me see. And what I am going to do is go underneath the education menu and into the webinars. And notice here you can view prior recordings. Now, whether you want to view those prior recordings or simply search, I'm going to put Strategy Builder, and notice when I do go to search, here's that recorded webinar as well as the associated notes. So Eric, you may want to make a check on creating those spread strategies. But notice that when I'm going to minimize this here, and let's minimize the rest of this and get back. But notice that when I was creating this, that it is allowing me to create those spreads through the Strategy Builder. Okay, let me see if the market. All right, Amir has a question here. If the price drops below the stop price of 71.92, does it get filled at a market price? Well, Eric, and what you were asking when we were back on that combo here, notice that I actually went in and filled that the bracket order that we just created. So let's go in. I'm going to go into Pfizer. Or let me see, I have a position in all of these. Let me pull up. All right, well, here I've got one for, there's a position here. Oh, CVS, no, I still do have a position. Well, let me see. Oh, and it looks like I've got positions in all of these. I'm going from let's go into my favorites tab here. I'm going to open up Coke because I know I don't have a position here. But remember, when you do go to create that bracket order, we're going to go in, we'll create a buy. I want to go into the advanced, go into my bracket, create a bracket. When I do submit this order, I'm going to go ahead and we'll simply notice here that, first of all, by the way, since I did add this as Coca-Cola and it is set to Smart, that any of my trades will also be directed to Smart. So that I think was a question from before. But let me see, Amir, notice when you do go in and set that market price, once that stop price, notice here the default trigger method, as soon as that stop price is attained or penetrated, then TWS will send that stop send that as a market trade. So yes, once your stop election price, and notice how it will be displayed here, once that's been penetrated, your stop order does go in as a market. Now that allows, or what that does is it also keeps that trade active on the TWS platform, but it is not visible to the markets until your trade actually does fill. Okay, is there any way to put a value? David, okay. David sent a question earlier today, and there is a way to put a value, but unfortunately not within the Mosaic interface. Now, what I will do is show you, and this can be done in classic TWS. Let me see, I think I put a new page here, and let me see, did I add? Well, for the type of trade, now what you want to do is a trade. Now notice here, I am in classic TWS. What I am going to do is simply insert additional columns. Now notice when I go to that insert, where I'm I know what I did in Classic TWS. I'm on the market data columns. So what you can do is right click. Notice we have dual headers here. The top row is your interactive market data row, and the bottom row, when you do choose to create it, will be your let me see, it's not on pending here. I'm just going to go in and we'll create this. I'm going to create a test page here. And it is these two values. It looks like I did go in and create this. Now, what I want to mention here is notice when you right click, you can go in, either right click, well, let's go here. And what I do want to do is customize this layout. Now, there's market data rows, and then there's order rows that are available. So I'm going to click on the order row, and then it's in the quantity field. Now, in the quantity field, let me remove these. Let's go into quantity. What it is quantity type and quantity value that you do want to add. Adding either one of these, notice when I do add those, both are added together. So I'll go ahead and click apply and then OK. And now I think you gave me, we're going to put in a particular ticker symbol. Now notice when I do add the ticker symbol, you do get a selection here that will go to SMART. But if you do want to, and this is for others who have asked, notice if you do want to direct route those trades, you could make that selection here directed, and notice how this will allow you to select what particular exchange you're going to direct that to. But I'm going to go in here and we'll choose LM. And we'll go here with SMART. I'm going to go ahead and continue. Oh, since I am in my order entry screen, let me simply minimize. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to pull up TWS again. And this time I'll go over into the classic version of the trading platform. So now here, notice that by adding the quantity type and the quantity value, when I click on the bid or the ask price, notice here I'll click on a particular price, and it automatically, when I click on the ask, it sets up that ask price. Now notice that in this case here, the quantity is set at, okay, I think I'm doing this. You'll see here the quantity value and the quantity type is set at US dollars. Let me quickly jump over into, we're getting a little bit more complex here. I'm going to go into the settings and into order presets. Now, order presets, remember I've been showing you that there are default amounts that are default fields that are available for each of the different order types that you can actually set up your preferences in order presets. Now I'm going to go into stocks, for example, and notice that when I do open up the stocks, and I think you mentioned that, say, for example, you want to do 10,000, but not in shares. In this case, an amount. So I'm going to put this in as $10,000 for the amount. We'll go ahead and click apply. And I'm going to ignore this for right now. Just I don't want to propagate any of the presets that I already have. And notice that by setting that $10,000 amount, I'll go ahead and click apply and then OK. So in this case, I'm going to simply, I'm going to discard that trade. So now notice when I click on the ask price that you'll see $10,000 value pre-populates automatically. It also will show you the number of shares that are available here. So this is set up as, so for example, for 10,000. So you could go ahead and make that purchase here. Notice we do have a destination set as SMART, and in Classic TWS, you can simply choose that destination rather than going into the advanced button. So if you do want to direct route this to any of these exchanges, but I also want to point out, notice here, we're going to go to SMART, and what I will do is in this case, I'm going to change the quantity, and we'll put this down to 1,000 shares. And now when I tab out, notice it's going to, for 1,000 share, or for 1,000 US dollars, it will purchase 24 shares. So I could go ahead and transmit that order directly from this screen here. So yes, it is possible to do, but these values are not available in the Mosaic. So you will have to go into the classic version of TWS in order to activate that. Also, please do check our website on order presets because that's where you'll need to make those changes. You can access that from the global configuration window, go into settings and go into your order presets and then pick the instrument that you're going to trade. Notice here it is set at an amount, and by the way, the size increments, you can also choose and say, for example, instead of upping that size increment in any of those drop-down boxes at 100 shares each, notice this way I can make that for 1,000 shares. When I click apply, I'm going to ignore and then OK. Notice that if I do want to make a selection within the quantity value, I'll go ahead and put 1,000 here, and whoops. Well, it will allow you to change that quantity. That will allow you to update that. So hopefully that will get you started taking a look at how to transmit those trades. By the way, you can add your ticker symbols here. And once again, if you do not have a reason to direct route your trade, you'll get the best price and the fastest fill when you do choose SMART. Okay, we got a lot of questions, so I'm going to stick with your questions right now. And for just a moment, let's get back into the Mosaic, because since I have shown you the order presets, they're not nearly as robust in the order in the Mosaic order management screen. But let's go in, because now notice here we're back to that default quantity. I'm going to go ahead and click a buy. But if we do go into the advanced drop down box here, notice that I could make that selection. But if you do want to go in and set your defaults, now keep in mind that unless you set a ticker-specific preset, and I'll show you that in just a moment, where I do have it set up for Microsoft, but this will, if I do go to create, well, first of all, I have to create a buy order, and then we'll go in and you'll see when I attach the bracket, it's the dollar above and dollar below. Now, there's some advanced tools here that will allow me to select. Well, let's not get into the advanced tool. So I'm going to go back to, let me just deselect that. We'll collapse that here. But it's the defaults and the hotkeys. Now, the order defaults that are available in the Mosaic are not nearly as robust as you can find in classic TWS. But notice here, you could set up a hotkey, for example, that will allow you to attach a bracket order. So notice I could simply choose, after adding an entry here, I could simply choose Control B and it would add that bracket order. Or I could also select a profit-taking limit order to attach, or a protective stop, or if I choose bracket, it will add both. Now, you can also specify that you may want to automatically attach stop losses and bracket orders as soon as you do enter this item here, or you can go into those presets and notice that you can set the preset right here. But for David, these presets do not include that quantity type and amount field, rather than the number of shares that you're going to trade. So if you do want to enter those large quantity shares, you'll need to do that within the classic version of TWS. Okay, let's keep moving on here for a few more questions. So I did want to show you, by the way, you can apply an offset to a parent, and do be aware of these question marks that are available throughout the platform that will give you some additional information. So keep in mind your presets, unless you set a specific preset. Now I'm going to, let's close this window out and I will move over into Classic. When I mention a specific preset, remember if we go into our settings here, I'm going to show you with our presets. Notice here I do have a ticker specific preset that you can create. Now I'm going to collapse this for a minute and notice that some of the options are hidden. Let's see. Oh, here it is. That's what I wanted to see. Notice at the very bottom of your presets, you can set a preset that is specific to the instrument that you're trading, but you can also create a ticker specific preset. Now what I'm going to do here is show you that when I did select ticker specific, I set it up for Microsoft. So you'll see that every time I go to place a trade, it's going to include 1,000 shares. And so there's other presets that are available. I'll simply go ahead and click OK. So whether now, if I do add Microsoft, you'll see, well, we're going to navigate away because I'm back in my order entry window here. I've got Microsoft already set up, and notice that the default here went to, instead of 100 shares, it went to 1,000 shares. So that's a ticker specific preset, but other presets will not work within, other than if you do create them through the advanced order button. Okay, let's keep going with more questions here. Let me see. Rose has got a very good question. Can you do two different profits and stop losses? And Rose, you while you can keep in mind when you do set a bracket, it is only putting a single profit-taking limit order as well as a single protective stop, and you. In TWS, you cannot use those two different profit and stop orders. You can do it manually, but because the way the bracket order is set up, that one will, that should you get a fill on one one of your trades, whether it's your profit taking limit or a protective stop, it will automatically cancel any remaining trades. So while you can do it, what you may want to do is separate each of those items out and do them separately. So while it is available to be done, it cannot be automated, or at least yet, in TWS. Okay, can I show how to do a butterfly? Well, if we're in here, and I'm going to go into Microsoft, and notice this time I'll go in and simply open up the strategy builder. Now, the strategy builder, if you want to write a covered call, notice I'm going to come out to the out of the money calls and simply click on the bid price here, and that automatically will set this up as a sell. So we're going to sell that call, and then notice this time I'm going to go into the advanced button for your combos, and you can create or add a stock leg here. So what I've just done was create a buy right or that covered call in TWS. Now, once you've created that call, notice that order entry line, you can add the different or you can make any modifications. Do be aware this is going to be a debit spread, so you would owe this amount of money for that particular spread, and then you can submit the order from here. So yes, you can. Now, if you want to do a butterfly, let me go in. I'm going to well, I'm going to close that out, and let's go. This time I'll go in and open up the option chain, so we'll go out to January. Now, I'm going to work on the call side here, and notice what I can do is I'm going to click on the ask. Let's go back in. One feature, it fell behind. I do want to point out here is that push pin. So notice I've added the push pin now within this window. So now I'm going to keep this to the strategy builder, and we'll go ahead and buy a call sell a call and buy another call. So I've got each of those three. Notice here where with the butterfly, you're typically selling two of the inner strike prices. So once I make that, notice here TWS has just set up that butterfly call. Notice I've got that limit price. It is a debit trade. It will be set up as a as a day order. And from here, now let's see, we can go into, you could make this delta neutral. You could still add a stock leg here, or I'm simply going to close out of this and submit that trade. By the way, there for option traders, there's also an additional field, your performance profile, that you may want to review prior to transmitting that trade. Notice how that performance profile shows up. It gives you the details, quote details for this particular spread, your profit probability, maximum return, maximum loss, performance graph that you can graph not only profit and loss, but you may also want to view any of these Greek risk factors, not only for today, but notice you could also go out anytime between now and option expiration. You'll also see scenarios at the bottom that will show you what will happen should the underlying move plus or minus 5, 10, or 30%. So let's see what a 5% move would make. If all of that is acceptable, you can simply transmit that trade from here. Notice once I've transmitted, it no longer appears. I'm going to close these items down. I was just filled. Now let's go into my portfolio, and you'll be able to see that. Let me see here. I believe this was my butterfly call. Oh, it looks like I've done this a few times here. So you'll be able to see what that butterfly call is, and notice how I can expand and see each side of that trade as well. So hopefully that's what you were looking for. Okay, a quick look at that. Okay, Steve. All right, thanks for your question. I'm new to IB and curious whether the bracket order might be executed prior to your primary trade. Aha, Young Feng, good question on that. So let's go in here, and I'm going to, let me see, and I still don't have a position in Coke. So notice if I do go in, I'm going to create a bracket order. Oh, I have this, my quantity is set here a little odd. So what I will do is I'm going to go back into my settings and those presets I'm going to have to take out. Notice this time here, I'm going to, instead of an amount, we'll go back to our basic number of shares. And I'm going to put in 100, and I'm going to leave this. We'll also leave that out. I'm going to click apply and OK. And now I will have to come off. We'll navigate away, come back to Coca-Cola. And now I'll go in to create a buy order. And let me see. Notice now I'll go in and well, at this point here, what I am going to do is take this away from the market. So I'm going to move that down pennies away. We'll go ahead now, go into the advanced, attach the bracket, and submit. Now, when you submit this trade, notice I'm going to go ahead and transmit. I'll have to go through all of these, but what you're looking for here, now remember I have this set it completed. I'm going to go into all my orders. The notice it's the order status colors that are letting you see this order status. It's waiting for the parent order to fill. So both of those opposite side trades will not even activate until your parent order fills. Then once filled, you'll be able to see that profit taking limit order or the protective stop will also be activated, and depending on the different order status colors that you see here, well, let's go ahead. I'm going to change this from a limit to a market order. We'll go ahead and update this. Notice now that I've been filled, your order status colors change, and this now shows you that each of these are active and waiting for either the limit price to be hit or your stop election price to be penetrated, which would then activate that other trade. How do I add a stop loss to a bull put spread? Um, Same way that you would do this now. Notice here, I'm going to go back into my portfolio and let me see. I think was this my bull put spread where I do have a spread that's included here. Now notice that once I do have that spread, if I want to sell the spread, what I can do, and by the way, you uh, keep in mind that if you already have a position, a bracket order isn't going to work because that bracket is at the beginning of your trade. So if you don't have a position, you can bracket it. If you've already got a position, notice we'll go into the advanced order type, and instead of attaching a bracket, we'll simply attach a protective stop. Now, something else to be very careful of, notice here that this says set that my protective stop $1 above that current price. So do be very careful with this. But once you do have that item, you can go from your portfolio, simply add that into the screen and choose to add the protective stop. By the way, if you want to see what that margin is, notice how that will, you can check your margin. We can even go in and check the performance profile for that particular trade, or I'm going to go ahead and close out of that, and then I could transmit it from here. Now, this is including, keep in mind that I did already have a position. So in this case here, instead of, because this will set up that protective stop, it's not the bracket order that I want to send. So I'm going to close this out and notice here that what you can do is simply, it's in the order types. I will need to put that stop in here, and then you can set your order price to exit that particular trade. Notice here, I'm going to go in. I'm going to have to, let's continue here. And I will go back. And by the way, notice that if you do have, here I'm working from my portfolio, which includes positions that I hold. But if you do want to set that up, let me see, how do you add a stop loss to a bull put spread? In the option trader. Well, when creating those spreads, the option trader is a more advanced order entry system, not within the option. Let's see, let's go in here. Notice we're getting a little further off course, but Option Trader is a separate standalone screen that's available in Classic TWS. So what you would be looking at and the way you place your orders in Option Trader is the same way that you would place them within Trader Workstation or classic version of TWS. Now I'm going to simply close out of this for right now. But in setting that up, what you can do is simply, if you want to add at the time of your trade, if you want to add a stop. So if we do go in and create an option trade, I can simply right click, choose to add that stop loss at the time of the trade. After, if you already do have a position here, and notice, well, let me see, I don't have any other here where I do have a position. Notice that I could put a protective stop for a position I already own and enter the information here. So it depends on, remember, a bracket trade or attaching a trade creates a dependency in that the parent order has to fill before the attached or the dependent trade will actually activate. Okay. So let's see. I don't have a bull put spread, but had I created a bull put spread, we're going way over right now. But by the way, everyone, I've been working in my paper account, and I also do suggest that you work in a paper account too. Now, your paper account, if you don't already have one, notice that if you go to the account window, you can create a paper trading account, but you'll have to go in through account management in order to activate that. If you do have an approved and a funded TWS account, that paper account is available at no additional charge. And that's because it mirrors the same market data permissions that you've got for your live account in that paper trading or simulated trading environment. The beauty about trading in paper is that none of your trades will actually be presented to a clearing agent, but it will, because you're working in a simulated environment, you will be able to trade as if you were trading live. So definitely work in your paper account. Make sure that you're getting the results you expect before you do move over and start trading and risking your capital off your live account. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, a few more questions here, and I do want to, I appreciate your time, so I'm going to try and get through some of these questions. Can you add trailing stops on option trades in Canada? Madi, give that a try in your paper account. I don't have any trading permissions in Canada, so I want you to be very careful. Oh, I didn't demonstrate the destination. The destination. Now remember, let's go in here. I'm going to navigate away from this. Now notice I do have BMO, for example. I'm going to go ahead and simply, this one here happens to be Canada, but let me see. Combo. Oh, you cannot choose a destination. Okay, well, Eric, you'll have to determine that destination ahead of time. So notice I may put in, I'm going to put in IBM here. We'll go ahead and choose directed. To direct that. Now, it may be that you want that to appear at SIBO, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Now, notice here, that is, so we're directing this to SIBO. So now, when you do go in and, so let me, I'm going to go ahead and put this, we'll go into our option chains here. So notice here we'll be able to see those option chains. So if I do, I'm just going to click on the ask price. Notice that when we do go into the advanced, we should be able to make that designation with it. Oh, you can make that designation even within the window. Oh, that is just an individual call. Let me see. And I think what you were looking for was to do it on a, let me see. All right, I'm going to, well, let's go in here. I'm going to pull up my option chains and we'll simply, let me go back into, sorry about this. I'm going to go back into my option chains here. And it is the strategy builder that I want rather than doing each individual item. So let's go ahead. We're going to go in here and notice I've got a bull call spread, for example. And if you do want to go in here, oh, it's only going to allow you, Eric, looks like that for any of these spreads will have to be, doesn't look like that's available. I always do try within my paper account, but this may be something that you do want to make sure that you access or get in touch with our client services team to get something definitive there. But usually if it's not available to you, it's not something that can be worked on. Which is considered a full-featured TWS or Mosaic, and which do you use if you want all the features? Okay, Anupam, Both of these, whether you're in Mosaic or the Classic version, TWS gives you all of the features that we do have available. Now, Classic TWS is our legacy version, and all items can be done through the Classic. Now, whether you're working in the Mosaic interface, which is a simplified color-linked or color-linked window with all of these separate windows, or in the Classic version of TWS, you're still trading Trader Workstation. Now, if you want all of the features, you'll find that our legacy version includes some additional order entry windows, such as the Option Trader. We'll bring up the Option Trader, and you'll see it does include the option chains that we saw within Mosaic, but in this case, you'll see, and this is really the basic difference between Mosaic and Classic TWS, is what's included at the top of the page that I refer to as a trader tool layout. It does have an actual quote panel. You've got some buttons here that for any actions or repetitive actions that you take. You can even configure these buttons. And then there's also a trading tab or an order management tab that will allow you to create and manage your orders from here. Strategy Builder is included within this window, and as we saw, it's also within the Mosaic interface. Now, the basic difference is whether you're going to work in Classic TWS with the Trader tool layout directly within the tool, or if you go into, let me minimize this, we'll go back into the Mosaic here, which includes all of these color-linked windows, but only basic order types. Now, notice that all of the order types within Mosaic are all handled through that order entry window, where in the Classic version of TWS, you can work in either the spreadsheet-like interface or any of these standalone or separate windows that includes that trader tool layout where you can trade directly from any of these trading features. Okay. All right, let me see a couple more questions and then we'll end it for today. Can a bracket order be adjusted after it is set? Michael is asking. Okay, well, Michael, when you do create a bracket order, now this is on Mosaic, so I'm just going to come back in here. We'll choose a particular item. Remember that when you do go in and select to add that bracket, you can now, we'll go ahead and, let me see here. I'm going to put this way below the market. We'll go ahead. I'm just going to submit that order right from here. I'll have to go in. And now notice when it does appear within your activity monitoring panel, you could go back in and make an adjustment here. I may want to take this a few pennies away from the market. We could update this, but also notice here that if you do want to, I'll just make that adjustment. You will have to adjust each leg individually. But yes, they can be modified up until and we'll go ahead and update that. Notice that it can be modified up until that order does fill. So yes, you can, and you can do that from within the activity monitor. Okay, Harry's asking, placing the stop order bull put with the example 5 minutes earlier and $1 higher, what is the trigger so that it gets filled? Well, at that point, Harry, what I had done, and the reason I set it $1 higher was because I set it as a sell. So that way it did go higher, which meant that the price would have to rise or penetrate that higher price before it would trigger. So keep in mind, I've been showing you the buy side, but when you do go into the sell side, you'll have to make those adjustments. Just make sure you didn't execute it where it would be a loss. And yes, that's why I want you to try this out, Harry, in your paper account. Okay. Okay, it doesn't work. You can't. Well, it looks like Eric, and you have contacted tech support, so that may be a feature that we don't have available. Now you can look that up. Do take a look, and remember, I'm going to circle back to our website because here from the website there's knowledge-based articles. But let's actually take this back to the website, and underneath the technology, go into the order types and algos. And for this example here, where we're talking, well, let's go into the combos. And this may be helpful here too. Notice that you do have, you can bracket for the combo. And I think what you're seeing here is this disclosure that's at the bottom, that this may be something that is available only if you do smart route it for those combo selections. So do check a little bit further into that. But if we're not seeing it available, I don't believe that it is. Okay. Tanny is asking, do you have Fibonacci's in your charts? Well, yes, we do. Let's go back in here. I'm going to pull up TWS again. And one more quick item here. Notice here with the, I do have an embedded chart, but for this case, what I'm going to do is instead of working in the embedded chart, I'm going to create a new chart or a separate chart here. We'll go ahead and I'm going to send, which now, by the way, notice that I do have these 3 working trades, but my parent trade, because it is set up as a one cancels all, notice that I'm going to send that cancellation request so that trade is no longer working. But let's go back in here. I'm going to pull up my, and what I will do is use the push pin to keep this on top. Let me actually expand this window so we can see in full screen. Excuse me. And it's under the edit menu. If you do want those Fibonacci's, notice here I'll simply make those Fibonacci's, and what I'm going to do is go from the high point in this chart and go directly down, and notice how I'll line that up with the low point on the chart, and here are the various Fibonacci's. So I think that's what you're looking for, Tanny. Okay. Okay. Okay, Eric. Okay. Friends are, well, what you can do, okay, you do have the ability when you're setting it up. Eric's got another question here. If he is getting now the same, getting the same combo at another exchange, and you're twisting your thumbs waiting or lower the price. Now, Eric, that may be something that is occurring in your paper account. Now, if you do go to the Interactive Broker website, this is one of the, let's pull that website up. Let me try and pull the website. Let's, oh, it's coming up over here. So let me just bring this. Hold on a minute, everyone. For some reason, my window is opening up on another screen. So I'm going to bring this. It's my push pin that was keeping it there. So here I do have the website. Okay. What I do want to point out is, let's go ahead and we'll look this up. There are certain limitations when you are paper trading. Notice here, let's go in. I'm going to go into this particular item. Well, we do have, and I'm not finding it yet, but I will ask you to contact customer support. When you are working in paper, there is a limitation that only a single contract at a time, and So with any of those combos, they may not execute the same way they would as if you were trading live. So you are, no, it is in your trading account. Well, Eric, sorry, I'm not able to help you with that. Hmm. I'll have to think about that. Um, but at this point, we have gone way over our time allotment here today. So I want to thank all of you for attending, and my apologies to Eric. Oh, you don't have a paper account. Well, you should give it a try, and at least so that way you can practice this before you do start risking your capital. Um, hmm. I'll have to think about that. Or you could create a ticket through account management, put it in through the message center, and that way they can do some research and get back to you with exactly what needs to be done for your account. Okay. All right. Well, with that, it looks like we are going to conclude our session. And David, just thanks very much for seasonal wishes. And I want to wish all of you as well a happy and prosperous new year. By the way, I haven't uh, I have been recording today's event, and I will be sending all of you a direct link to our recorded playback later on today. So do be watching your inbox if you do want to come back and revisit any of the concepts that we discussed here today. By the way, I'll also be including a link to our webinar notes, which goes over in more detail on a lot of what we were discussing here today. So with that, I am going to conclude the session. You can all exit using the X in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And thanks, everybody, for your participation here today. Have a great rest of your day. All right, with that, we're going to conclude today's session. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.